A few years ago, after I finished my Let's Play of Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven, I dreamed of one day returning to Lost Heaven in a remake. Now, at the time, I never thought it would become a reality, but a few months ago, back in May of this year, this terrible year, there was a sign of a little bit of good news. The remake becoming a reality. And here we are, my review of Mafia Definitive Edition. As usual with all my reviews, we're going to go over the pros, the cons, as well as my final verdict. But first, a few days ago, I posted a poll on my YouTube community tab asking all you wise guys and wise girls that either played Mafia Definitive Edition or at the very least watch someone else play it or stream it like I have on Medium, now going back through Classic. How would you rate Mafia Definitive Edition? So we got nearly 400 votes. Thank you to everybody that took your time to vote. And we had several options. 1 star for bad, 2 stars for okay, 3 stars for good, 4 stars for great, and 5 stars for Game of the Year, which got 49% of you voted 5 stars for Mafia Definitive Edition, saying that it's a Game of the Year contender. 28% voted 4 stars, meaning that it was a great game. 13% 3-star, good game. 6% okay. And 3% of you voted 1 star, bad rating for Mafia Definitive Edition. Overall, I think that the viewers, the subscribers, the fans of Mafia Definitive Edition loved this game. Now, how do I rate Mafia Definitive Edition? First off, we go to the pros. Overall, Mafia Definitive Edition, which you can purchase for either $40 US or part of the Mafia Trilogy bundle for $60 US, which also includes the remasters of Mafia 2 Definitive Edition along with Mafia 3 Definitive Edition. Mafia Trilogy is $60 US, whereas purchasing Mafia Definitive Edition by itself is $40 US, and the developer was Hangar 13. So overall, I thought that Mafia Definitive Edition was an amazing, faithful remake to the original game, Mafia: The City of Lost Heaven, including the stories, the missions, the characters. We have new voice actors and actresses. Admittedly, it took me a little time to warm up to the new actors and actresses for the characters in Mafia Definitive Edition, but most of them ended up growing on me. Tommy's character, Polly, Sam, especially Sarah. Sarah was fleshed out in a huge way from the original version of the game, so props to Hangar 13 for giving more to Sarah in this version than the original game. And the actors that played Don Salieri as well as Frank, they were great as well. The action was good. The setting, 1930s, Prohibition, Great Depression era, the City of Lost Heaven, based mostly off of Chicago. All of it felt like a faithful remake to the original game. And I absolutely loved it. The difficulty settings, so there's different options for you when it comes to difficulty, and this is definitely a pro. We got easy, medium, hard, and for those of you that want a real challenge to get Mafia Definitive Edition feeling as close to Mafia City of Lost Heaven as possible, going classic. And you also had some other options as well to pick between. Skipping the drive, which is something a lot of you out there probably enjoyed, because some people don't want to have to drive from point A to point B. So you could say that the drive skip was a fast travel option when you're playing through the main story of Mafia Definitive Edition. Some of us enjoy the drive, but I understand that some people don't, and that's why there is a skip option for those of you that rather just fast travel from point A to point B. Plus, there were different driving modes to switch from between regular, simulation, depending on which one you happen to prefer, automatic or manual. I do love the fact that this game had several options to choose from when it came to the settings of Mafia Definitive Edition. Another pro is the weapons from the 1930s era. These are weapons you would expect, nothing crazy, nothing outrageous. like a baseball bat, a knife, a .38 special revolver, a Magnum revolver, a 1911 semi-auto pistol, a Tommy gun, pump-action shotgun, Molotov cocktails, grenades, and more. Once again, these are not a ton of weapons, but just enough, and nothing that feels like it's out of place. It would make sense for crime families, criminals, wise guys to be running around with these weapons in the 1930s time period. And when you're not running around, another pro is the 1930s era cars from the early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s. These automobiles are absolutely beautiful. Overall, the handling is okay, and I kind of equate it to the time period. The way that the cars handled back in the 1930s is pretty much on par with the way the cars handle in Mafia Definitive Edition. They've even included the motorcycle, which was not in the original Mafia game. Now, that motorcycle is fun, it's fast, it also goes all over the place, and I can imagine that the 1930s version of a motorcycle probably was similar, maybe not as crazy or out of control, but it's still kind of cool to have a motorcycle in Mafia Definitive Edition. There's also music from artists and musicians, singers from the 1930s era, licensed music. The score is absolutely amazing, including a remake of the original theme, which I absolutely love. I'm so glad that they included the original score along with the rest of the music to Mafia Definitive Edition. It definitely has this 1930s action comic book feel and vibe to it. I love it. In fact, Mafia dropped the whole score on their YouTube channel, and I've been listening it even when I'm not playing Mafia Definitive Edition, when I'm just riding around Red Dead Online or driving in GTA Online and just have something to listen to. I've been listening to the score, and I absolutely love it, from the game itself to just listening it for the sake of listening to it because I love soundtracks. And I just cannot get enough of the opening theme, all the way from the original game in 2002 to the new game, the remake of Mafia Definitive Edition in 2020. There's also a car cyclopedia for all the cars that you have managed to quote-unquote collect, either throughout the campaign, throughout the main story, or in Free Ride. You can just go look at the different cars that you've gotten, check out the stats, and toggle through some of the options for the cars in the car cyclopedia, which leads us to the next pro, Free Ride, which was part of Mafia City of Lost Heaven back in the day, faithfully returns to Mafia Definitive Edition. And this is basically the open world, the free roam version of the game. So whenever you want to take a break from the main story, as long as you beat the first mission, that's when Free Ride unlocks. And as you progress through the main story of Mafia Definitive Edition, more things end up unlocking for you in Free Ride, including outfits as well as vehicles, etc. And there is actually things to do besides simply running around changing outfits, driving around in the various cars, using the weapons you end up getting. There's collectibles that you can pick up either in the main story, or you can just go back and get most of them in Free Ride, including the 1930s era comics, cigarette cards, wanted posters. There's even stuffed foxes around the place you can find. And at the bar, as you progress through the main story of Mafia Definitive Edition and Free Ride, you'll start to see notes pop up inside the Salieri bar from a guy named Baskerville. So you do have some Free Ride missions that you can do in the game. So there is definitely things to do, and Easter eggs and outfits that you can go collect, and some other surprises as well, and Easter eggs when it comes to Free Ride in Mafia Definitive Edition. Plus, it's just fun to hop into a car and drive around the map and explore Lost Heaven, as well as outside in the country, just, for fun. Either, in my case, as a B-roll for videos, like in the review, or for my vlogs video over on my vlogs channel. It's just nice to have Free Ride to give you that opportunity to just drive around the map and even run around blazing your guns, your Tommy gun, your 1911, causing mayhem, trouble, and mischief, getting into it with the Lost Heaven PD. It's just fun to have Free Ride mode as that option when it comes to Mafia Definitive Edition, especially once you complete the main game. There is part of me, though, that wishes they would have simply implemented Free Ride and the missions together. where one chapter wouldn't start exactly after the next chapter. You would just simply, at the end of this chapter, this mission, it would go back to quote-unquote free ride. And to initiate the next mission, you would just go back to the bar, go back to the meeting room where Don Salieri and Frank are. And before you do that, similar to most other like open world games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, or Mafia 3, you could just drive around doing everything else in between missions. But I understand why Hangar 13 made the decision to put the missions literally back to back to back and separate the missions from free ride, just like it was with the original game Mafia: The City of Lost Heaven. I fully understand why they made that decision. However, it wouldn't have bothered me if they would have just implemented all of it together. It wouldn't have been a big deal to me, to be honest. But at the same time, I get why they made that choice, and it is more faithful to the original game. Those were the pros. Time for the cons. There's always cons with my reviews. Even if I do greatly enjoy a video game, there's always going to be cons. And Mafia Definitive Edition is no exception. Throughout my playthroughs of Mafia Definitive Edition, I have seen some bugs, glitches, pop-in issues, and whatnot. Unfortunately, that seems to be the norm when it comes to most video games these days. It's nowhere near as bad as Mafia 3 was at launch, so I feel like the developers at Hangar 13 have learned their lessons, and they had time to polish Mafia Definitive Edition a little bit more. I always felt like Mafia 3 was being rushed out the door for October 2016 during the holiday season by the publisher, and that game could have used 3 to 6 more months of polish. But I feel like when it comes to Mafia Definitive Edition, it has considerably less issues than Mafia 3 did at launch. And once again, these fixes, these glitches, bugs, pop-in issues, all that could be potentially fixed in a future patch, so it's not really a big deal in my opinion. It's not game breaking, it's just there, it's obvious, but it still doesn't take away from the overall experience of Mafia Definitive Edition. The next con is the outfits and the wardrobe. I realize it's a video game, but I also know that some people want to wear the specific outfit for each and every mission throughout the game. But there's some of us that want to go back and play through the game again and wear all the different outfits that you end up collecting, even some of the more ridiculous outfits. Unfortunately, except for in Free Ride, or once you're able to replay the missions upon completion of the game, you cannot have access to the different outfits that you collect in the main story or Free Ride. So that would have been really cool if you had that ability to go up to your wardrobe and put on a different outfit and do the mission in this outfit or that outfit. It would have been funny. It would have been ridiculous. But like I mentioned, it's a video game. And I really wish that Hangar 13 would have given us that ability, that option when it comes to the clothing and the wardrobe. It feels like a waste, to be honest. Even though it's awesome to have all these different variety of outfits for Tommy to wear and collect in Free Ride, it just feels like a waste that we cannot use them if we feel so inclined throughout the main story of the game. The next con involves the L trains and trolleys. I like the fact that they're moving around the city. They make the game feel even more alive. But at the same time, when you try to get in a trolley or try to go up the steps to an L train, you'll find the gates locked and you're unable to access and ride along on an L train or the trolleys. And that is unfortunate. I realize most players would prefer either driving or walking around in the game, but it would have been cool if we would have had the ability to ride around on a trolley or an L train. Very similar to Mafia City of Lost Heaven. Maybe there were reasons why Hangar 13 decided to prevent the player from being able to actually use a trolley or L train, but still, it sucks. It's a con in my opinion. I am glad, though, that they are moving around the city. They do add life to Lost Heaven, so it's better to have them moving around and looking like they're actually going somewhere and doing things than to not have them at all, because in Mafia 3, in New Bordeaux, which is also supposed to have trolleys, there are no trolleys to be found, and it feels pretty obvious, and it does make New Bordeaux feel dead, because in New Orleans, even to this day, there are trolleys that move around the city, and I would expect the same of New Bordeaux in the late 1960s, just like in New Orleans. from the late 1960s, before that, and all the way up to the present day. So at the very least, it's good that the trolleys and the L trains are moving around the place and are actually there, as opposed to them not being there, because if they weren't there, yeah, we would kind of sort of notice their absence. Locations in Freeride also are a con. During some missions, you can go into, say, the racetrack, the airport, etc., but outside the mission in Freeride, a lot of these locations are locked off. You have no way to go inside this place or that place in Freeride, which is very unfortunate. I don't know why Hangar 13 made that decision, reasons, but it would be cool if at the very least after you completed a mission that involved that location in Freeride, that area would unlock for you to explore and play around with and drive around or run around and cause mayhem in. But unfortunately, there are locations that you just can't have access to in Freeride. The controls for Mafia Definitive Edition is another con. It could have been a little bit better. Of course, this is coming from somebody that plays a lot of Grand Theft Auto Online and Red Dead Online. I prefer the way the controls work better when you're running and doing melee and combat. I'm used to the way the controls are in Mafia Definitive Edition because they're very similar to Mafia 2 and Mafia 3. So in that regard, those controls do make sense. It's just a personal preference on my part. Some of you may like the controls. I feel like that they're a little clunky at times and could have been handled considerably better. Another issue is melee. Melee is pretty basic in this game. What it comes down to is two things: punching, dodging. Now, the dodging, I admittedly got to work on, but there's nothing over the top, ridiculous, no combos, no sweet moves. It's just all about punch, 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 dodge until you get a finishing option. Then it's kind of cool, whether you're punching somebody to death or knifing somebody or, bashing their head in with a baseball bat. The melee is not bad, but it could have been considerably better. It's just, meh. Another con I have to bring up, because I'm sure a lot of you will as well, is the race. Now, in the original version of the game, the race, in my opinion, was a lot worse. And that was before Illusion, now Hangar 13, released a patch adding difficulty levels for the race itself. If you don't win the race, then you couldn't advance through the main story of Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven. Fortunately, with the race in Mafia Definitive Edition, from the get-go, you have options. You can bump it all the way down to easy, medium, hard, or classic if you feel like you really want a challenge. But at the same time, the race itself can be a pain to players that really just want the Mafia experience and don't really care for the racing aspect of the game. It's, in my opinion, better than the original version of the race in Mafia City of Lost Heaven, but a lot of people obviously do not like the race, and that's why it's a con. But I get why Hangar 13 decided to leave the race there. And it does look a lot better in the new version of the game than in the original, and that can be said about most of the world of the City of Lost Heaven. Another con is no photo mode. There are so many games out there right now, including Ghost of Tsushima, that has an awesome photo mode, but sadly we don't have a basic photo mode for Mafia Definitive Edition. This is a game that's just asking for a photo mode. The skyline of Lost Heaven, photo mode for the cars, and for everything else that we happen to find and explore throughout the game of Mafia Definitive Edition. It's very unfortunate that the developers at Hangar 13 did not at the very least come up with a basic photo mode for us, because I can imagine a lot of awesome screenshots, photos, thumbnails being made of Mafia Definitive Edition. And that's just something that gamers love to do, from Red Dead Redemption 2 to Ghost of Tsushima and many other games out there. So I feel like the lack of a photo mode for Mafia Definitive Edition is a missed opportunity for Hangar 13. And maybe, just maybe, they'll eventually add a photo mode. That would be something that I very much would like to see them include in a future patch or future update to Mafia Definitive Edition. And I'm sure most of you would feel the same way. And if anybody at Hangar 13 happens to be watching this review and you want to send this up the chain in order to maybe get yourself some brownie points with Hayden Blackman, or maybe Hayden's watching himself. Hey, how's it going? A photo mode. Come on, get us a photo mode. Even if it's just a basic photo mode, that would be sweet. Imagine all the screenshots and photos of this game would be getting out there right now on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And all the awesome looking thumbnails that us content creators and streamers could be making right now with a said photo mode. So just a suggestion. It's a con, but I definitely think that a photo mode would be fantastic for Mafia Definitive Edition. The final con, no Belleville. Come on! I want Belleville. I love that song from Django. Yes, there are songs from Django and other artists, musicians, singers from the 1930s time period, and I know why Belleville was not included, even though it's quite popular in Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven. Belleville did not come out till the 1940s. So I get it. I understand. It's not time period appropriate technically. But at the same time, I just would love to have Belleville in Mafia Definitive Edition. I understand. But it's just a small con, a small gripe. Something I just wanted to leave out there as I usually do with the final con in my reviews. Fortunately, thanks to YouTube, Belleville is out there for you to listen to. It's a fantastic track. It absolutely is. And Django was absolutely a jazz legend from back in the day. So there you go. My pros, my cons. Now, the final verdict for Mafia Definitive Edition. It isn't perfect, but it is a faithful remake to Mafia City of Lost Heaven, put together by developers, some of which were actually part of Illusion Softworks whenever they put together Mafia City of Lost Heaven. And they're now at Hangar 13, and through their hard work, love, dedication, and respect for the original game, Hangar 13 has found redemption with Mafia Definitive Edition, and here's hoping that it sells well enough to merit a future Mafia game in the franchise. I feel like Hangar 13 has learned a lot and come a long ways from the development of Mafia 3 to Mafia Definitive Edition. Bear in mind, Mafia 3 was their very first game. Now, this is just my opinion. You know how my opinions go. Some people love them, some people hate them. But this is what I've been saying for a while now. If Hangar 13 would have been given a little bit more time with Mafia 3, say 3 to 6 more months, even though I understand holiday season 2016, you know, they were pressured to get the game out on time. I understand that. But a little bit more time with fixing up the issues with Mafia 3, which they eventually did through patches for the most part, I think Mafia 3 would have been a lot better received if it would have been given more time. Mafia Definitive Edition was given time, and they learned a lot. They improved upon the same engine that they built Mafia 3 on, and overall, the reviews have been very positive for Mafia Definitive Edition, including my community tab poll. 49% of you said it's a Game of the Year contender. 28% says it's a great game. Once again, 13% said it was a good game. So overall, I feel like that the fans, the community, the reviewers out there, including my friend Carrick over at ACG, are giving Mafia Definitive Edition overall fantastic rave reviews. Myself included, it's definitely worth $40 on its own. It's absolutely worth it with $60, part of the Mafia trilogy, which once again includes Mafia 2 Definitive Edition as well as Mafia 3 Definitive Edition. A few years ago, a remake of Mafia the City of Lost Heaven was nothing more than a dream of mine, and a few videos I made about that dream. I never thought that it would come true, but props to Hangar 13 for making that dream the closest thing to a reality. I've absolutely enjoyed playing through Mafia Definitive Edition on Medium. For the most part, I'm enjoying it on Classic, except for the race. I'm so salty still. But at the same time, I've absolutely loved my trip back to Lost Heaven. From the epic intro, panning over the city with the original score playing, all the way to the emotional roller coaster that makes up the finale of Mafia Definitive Edition. That's my thoughts, my views, my opinions, pros and cons, verdict regarding Mafia Definitive Edition. Now I want to know what you thought about this game. Your thoughts, your views and opinions, pros, cons, and verdict regarding Mafia Definitive Edition. Welcome below in the comments section.